Cartoons have been around for over a century and have had a huge impact on the media industry. They have also had a huge impact on my life. They are my primary form of entertainment growing up, and they inspired me to take my career into media. So I have decided to create a documentary discussing the history of animation and cartoons in movies. Our story begins in 1908 with the earliest example of animation that I can find, Phantasmagorie. Phantasmagorie is a short animated French film created by Émile Cohl. The film itself is 1 minute 45 seconds that features a stickman and a number of morphing objects. This marks the beginning of the animation industry. Over the next decade, animation would become more and more prevalent with creators like Winsor McKay's animations and shows like Feline Foley's by the 1920s. But there is one creator that would rise to the top of the industry, a creator that went by the name Walt Disney. Walt Disney's first animation was Alice's Wonderland, not to be confused with Alice in Wonderland, in 1923. It was a film that combines both live-action actors with cartoon drawings, an idea that gets explored in the future with titles such as Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Space Jam, that did not have a theatrical release but was shown to film distributors. This marks the start of the huge media empire that would become #1 media company in the world, owning nearly 30% of the market. Over the next couple years, Disney would work on numerous projects, including the continuation of the Alice comedies and Steamboat Willie in 1928, where their most iconic character was created, Mickey Mouse. Some other major cartoons worth noting around the same time was the first ever Looney Tunes film, titled Sinking in the Bathtub, in 1930, created by Hugh Harman and Rudolph Ising, distributed by Warner Brothers. The show was inspired by previous works of Walt Disney. The face of this new animation was initially 2 characters called Bosco and Buddy, but was replaced by 3 more familiar characters that we know today in the next decade. Those characters being Porky Pig, first debuting in 1933, then Daffy Duck in 1937, and Bugs Bunny in 1938.
I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street. The British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note. This country is at war with Germany.
Also in 1938, France and England declared war on Germany. The Second World War had begun, and in 1941 America joined after the attack on Pearl Harbor. The day after America joined the war, the American government began to collaborate with Walt Disney in making films that mainly consisted of propaganda and training cartoons. Disney was not the only one capitalizing on the war, as Warner Brothers' Looney Tunes had their own campaign during the war with Bugs Bunny's Bond Rally, where Bugs Bunny became a national mascot. After the war, Disney would go on to grow its empire, opening parks and experiences, with its first being Disneyland Incorporated in 1955. The number of these mergers and acquisitions would increase over time. Unfortunately, the founder Walt Disney would not be able to see this, as in 1966 he would pass away from circulatory collapse as a result of cancer, at 66 years of age. After his death, the overall profits from the company, especially in the animation division, had a decline. This decline would eventually recover over time, but only in the late 1980s would it enter its Renaissance era, when it released The Little Mermaid. During this time, a new studio would enter the scene, DreamWorks, an animation studio founded by big-time Hollywood director Steven Spielberg, music executive David Geffen, and most interestingly of all, former Disney executive Jeffrey Katzenberg. Jeffrey was previously given credit for reviving Disney, but later on in his career was forced to resign due to tensions between him, Walt Disney's nephew Roy E. Disney, and Disney's CEO Michael Eisner. After he resigned, he made a lawsuit against Disney and settled out an estimated $250 million. Then, he founded DreamWorks. DreamWorks would go on to create famous productions such as Wallace and Gromit, Kung Fu Panda, Shrek, and many more in the early 2000s. And that brings us to our conclusion with the current state of animation in movies. Disney over the years has merged and bought many other studios such as Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilms, and more, making it the biggest media company in the world, and remains to dominate the industry to this day. Its animations continue to make billions at the box office, with its most popular movie, Frozen, making over $1.4 billion. Its successor, DreamWorks, is still going to this day, but has not nearly had the same impact on the box office, with its most popular movie, Shrek 2, making over $400 million. And Warner Bros., although being a big competitor as a studio, it lacks in the animation department, with its biggest animated movie being the Lego Movie, making $200 million. So when it comes to animation, it's safe to say Disney runs the market, and will continue to for a long time. And that is most of what I can find for the history of animation in movies. There is obviously a lot more to uncover about animation and cartoons overall, but maybe I can go into more detail another time. But that is it for now.